So welcome everyone to the Inspire Show. This is a monthly interview series where I interview change leaders from around the world who are doing really motivational, inspiring work that's courageous, that's leading edge, and we're bringing it to our community, the Awakening Village, to help us inspire our own work, our own soul's path. We learn about the individual's journey, some of the ups and downs, the things it took them to get to where they are and where they're going, where they're heading. Every time it's a very inspirational talk. We always come away with something new to learn. And I'm really excited to be introducing this month, my dear friend Corry. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about her and give an introduction. She's a phenomenal lady and has a lot to share with us this month. Before I get started, I just wanted to just very briefly mention what the Awakening, the Inspire Show is part of the overall Awakening Village membership program that constitutes the once a month interview series, as well as a weekly cafe where we come on like this, we chat, we network, we help each other to really step into our soul's path. And we also have a whole library of videos and resources on our website, on the Awakening Village website. All the links are on associated with this video. And finally, it's an opportunity for us to network both online and offline. There's different events, and there's also our Facebook group, so people can cross-promote and support each other, again, to live the life they're born to their greatest self. Just before I get started, I have one little commercial because I have to do commercial. That's the marketing in me. So I just want to let you know, in a month I'm going to be at Omega doing a week-long workshop, and it's really about helping you live the life you were born to lead. It's what is your biggest vision of your life? Do you know what that is? Do you know how to live it? And what's stopping you from doing that? And so it's really, I believe you're meant to live very vibrantly, passionate, with beauty, abundance, with no limitations, no regrets whatsoever. I believe that's your birthright, and that's the purpose of your life. And so that's why I'm really excited to be working at one of the world's leading holistic centers. The Omega Institute's been around for 40 years. So it's a real retreat for a whole week to get away, to really think about and dive into yourself and what you're all about and what is that big vision for your life. So join me. It's June 10th to 15th. So now we can, I'd like to get started. I just want to do an introduction of Corry, and then we're going to ask some questions, and you'll have a chance to ask as well. So I'm going to give you the official introduction first, then the personal one. Sometimes a little bit the other way around, but I just, her background is just such an incredible pedigree, and what she's doing is just phenomenal. I'm just so impressed with what Corry's doing. She's known as a globally recognized change agent, and she provides both personal and professional coaching to her high-level clients, entrepreneurs, and executives. And these clients really seek to improve the performance in their workplace by building a coaching leadership culture. She is a coach, a certified coach with the International Coach Federation, and she supports her clients in drawing on her extensive background both in corporate coaching, transformational leadership development, leadership and change management, as well as conflict resolution styles, communication skills, personal well-being, and leading-edge psychometric tools. She brings a real lot to the table for her clients. And they're the kind of clients that really know that in order for their company to thrive, they must thrive. So what I'm also excited to talk to her about, besides the work that she does generally, is her recent work in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where she is in the process, or just completing, delivering a coaching certification program that teaches managers how to use coaching competencies as a leadership style and tool, and support the entire organization in building a coaching culture. She's doing this as part of the Crown Prince Mohammad bin Salman's vision for a new Saudi Arabia, which hopefully she'll talk about today. It's really exciting. And she's proud to play her part in this transformation. So I wanted to just thank Corry for joining us. Corry and I have been friends, dear friends, for many years, and I've just seen her blossom over the time we've known each other into this real change leader in the world, and now expanding beyond Montreal, beyond Canada, into the Middle East, and really doing work that is sacred and on her soul path. And I'm sorry if I'm a bit emotional, but when you love somebody and you're proud of them, that's what happens. And with that, unmute my friend Corry, and hopefully she won't be crying. Sorry, Corry.
Expecting that.
Anyway, so welcome, and I just wanted to start, but if you could just tell people a little bit, I've given you kind of the formal introduction, but just a little bit about your soul work, why you do the work that you do. Yeah, as a coach to these high-level executives and managers from around the world.
Well, that's a big question. Why do I do the work I do? You know, I ask myself that question all the time. You know, what is it that is calling me back to this work, you know, through the highs and the lows? You know, and I just always come back, you know, to what I think is true for me. And that is, like what you had said, it's spiritually guided work. It's a calling. I truly believe that, you know, building a thriving workplace is essential, not just to the success of the company, but for humanity. You know, work is important. Work matters. And having a great day at work makes a person feel fantastic about themselves and their lives and their contribution. And really, there's no reason why that can't be the truth for everybody every day. It just takes, you know, it takes leadership, and not just leadership on the part of the boss or the owner of the company. It takes leadership on the part of the employees as well, to really step up, engage, and be accountable for their contribution. And so I believe that coaching really builds that bridge. It really helps make that possible. And so that's just what I'm called to do.
That's amazing. So there's so many different things that we can ask questions about, and we may have to ask you to come back, but because I think I can think of a number of different questions, but one is really, can you explain why coaching is kind of is something that can really help transform people's work, the workplace? What is it about coaching that's different than the way people have been working in the past?
For one thing, I believe coaching is leadership theory in action. So, you know, we know that managers and executives often get sent off to leadership retreats where they spend a week learning leadership theories. But when you're actually practicing them, I believe you are actually using the coaching competencies. To go deeper, the coaching approach, you know, the one that's set out sort of by the International Coach Federation, holds the guiding principle that people are creative, resourceful, whole, intelligent. People are already complete. People are already everything. They've got everything they need to thrive in life and to make a really outstanding contribution to the company and to the community at large. You know, it's a great support tool. So we don't put more in. You know, we don't add more knowledge, more information, more facts to people. We work with what's already there. And in doing so, it helps a person blossom. And when a person can blossom and really feel great about themselves and great about, you know, feel really super confident about their potential and their ability to perform in the workplace, they're happier, they're stronger, they're healthier. And then that just naturally brings itself to the success of the company.
Nice. You know, you and I have talked in the past, and I used to work in corporate, and then I was a consultant for 10 years in corporations, and there was so much so often I would see a toxic environment. And some of the words that you used to describe to me that it really resonated with what I saw is a change from that command and control way of working, of that top down, you're going to be told what to do, to a much more collaborative type of environment, but still with decisive approach. Not everyone has to say yes to it before we move forward, you know. Can you talk a little bit about the difference from the kind of command and control to more of a coaching approach?
Right. So like you said, command and control is really, you know, you are going to do this. And it often comes with a sense of disrespect towards the individual who's receiving those commands and who is being controlled by the workplace. this really stifles a person. People who work in these kinds of environments, they do the absolute bare minimum required to keep their jobs. And in the background, behind the boss's back, they're probably sabotaging the organization, because if you take a person's dignity away from them, they're going to get it back. They'll take it back, when you're not looking. So that's going to harm the organization. And it causes, command and control causes disengagement and active disengagement. So we want the workforce to engage. So in Canada, Gallup's most recent study from 2016 shows that 84% of the Canadian workforce is either disengaged or actively disengaged.
Unbelievable number, eh? Yeah.
15% of workers are producing the results that drive our economy. There's no reason for that. So with the coach approach, when you're building up people and you're fueling people from the inside out, they're going to step up. They're going to, like I said, they will feel great about coming to work. They'll feel happy to be there, and they're going to love the organization. They're going to love their colleagues, and they're going to love their boss. And of course, there's bumps along the road. Of course, we have to still break a sweat, but it will be done from a place of meaning and purpose, and not because I'm being controlled just so that I can get my paycheck and put food on the table at home.
Yeah, that's it. A couple of things come up for me with that is that the old approach to work, and even if as entrepreneurs, I see this all the time, even if you don't even have a kind of boss, versus working in an organization, there's the fear-based work versus love-based work. Yeah. Love-based is following your passion, being aligned with your strengths. It's about loving your clients and your collaborators, and not in a romantic way, but really in a way of service and being there. It's loving yourself also enough to know when to say no, that type of thing. And fear-based is obviously the opposite, is doing things because you have to make money, you don't want to lose your job, you're doing whatever it takes. And I think the old way has a lot of harm, not only on the individuals, but also the clients. Like, I wonder, when you talk about command and control or even fear-based in a workforce, how that affects people's clients as well as the employees, obviously. And do you talk at all about love-based kind of work in your coaching? Is that kind of a crazy idea?
It's coming, and one of the things I've noticed, and I'm really happy about this, is the people who hire me now are already there. They're already people of a higher consciousness. I don't have to explain this. My clients know this already, and so I don't have to do a big sales job. They are love-based, and we do talk about, I have clients who refer to their employees as their family. I'm just thinking, like, my clients that I have been with for many years, I don't remember ever a time when they said to me, well, I've got to make more money, or I've got to get these lazy so-and-sos to, give me all they've got. No, they talk to me about building people up and making sure they're happy to come to work, make sure that they're proud of the organization, and they want them to do quality work because they themselves want to do quality work. And it does, it has a natural effect on the client service, but it's the natural byproduct. It's not, we're all striving for client service and happy clients. But when you treat your employees in such a way that you want them to thrive, their clients will feel that, and they'll know that. They'll get better service, they'll get better quality work, and they'll be happier, and they'll feel more trusting in the company. When the clients can tell, when an employee's being treated badly, the employee stops maintaining the account properly, they make sloppy mistakes, they're late, they're, over budget, and that destabilizes, the relationship between the client and the organization. So it's really the employer's best interest to take excellent care of their employees. And, and then slowly, the employee is looking for another job. And we all know the grass is never greener on the other side, but they just can't stand the environment anymore, so they need to get out. So now the client's like, what's going on in that organization? I got sloppy work, and now they quit. I'm not getting good service. I'm taking my my contract elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you lose employees either through actually quitting or through disengagement, and then you lose clients.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people on here that are solo entrepreneurs, and I think that what you're saying, as solo entrepreneurs, our number one employee is us, right? So thinking about from that perspective, exactly what you said is true for us. And how many of us, and I'll put my hand up saying I don't do this a lot of time, how well do I treat myself as my number one asset of my organization, of my business?
Yes.
And so can you talk a little bit about that of just, or maybe even an example of what would be a different approach to coaching versus the old way of working, whether it be a solo entrepreneur or a leader in an organization? Is there one or two examples, either, self-care, whatever it might be, that you could help us with?
So I guess what's resonating for me with your question is, when we're self-employed, we really do have to, like you said, take care of ourselves as though we would want, we would want to take care of our employees. And I struggle with this as well. I know most of us do. We're juggling a lot. We've got kids, we've got pets, we've got, houses, we've got clients, we've got to keep up with our learning and our reading. And very often the self-care is the first to go. Mm-hmm. And I catch myself in this, and I remind myself that when I'm not taking care of myself, I'm out of integrity. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know there's many healers on the line, many people who are really dedicated to taking care of other people one way or the other. So first and foremost, we have to recognize that, we have important work to do, and we do it in this body. And if this body isn't strong and thriving, we're not able to be in service, to people that we promise we're going to support, whether they be paid relationships or not. And that they could be client relationships, or they could be kids, family, volunteer work. We really do need to take care of ourselves, and self-coach a little bit, put ourselves first. And, I often ask myself, like, am I worth an hour a day?
Yeah.
Am I worth an hour a day to go for a jog, do a bit of yoga? Yeah.
And what will that do for your business too, right? And so I would imagine, as you kind of look at from a solo entrepreneur like yourself, then you're coaching a leader, the same thing applies for them, right? As a leader, they have to first start with themselves and look after themselves, and then helping their staff to look after themselves. Is that a part of the coaching approach that you teach, or is it something different?
In the purest sense of coaching, I like to let my client decide what's right for them, what does thriving mean for them, and then support them along that journey. So if, whatever comes along, there's many different pieces to that clients might want to work on, with obstacles that they might have for themselves. Some of them are natural athletes, but perhaps they don't sleep enough. So I would never tell them, you need to sleep more. They need to, that's, in the coach approach, we don't consult or advise on that level. We support the client in coming to these realizations themselves, and then building the journey they need to build to make the changes they need to make.
And why is that important?
Because advice doesn't work. And that's a fundamental principle of coaching. How many times have you given like the best advice ever? That's ever, really. It's fantastic advice. And then it gets greeted by, yeah, but I don't have the time. Yeah, but I don't have the money. Yeah, but I tried that already. Or, okay, thanks. And then off they go, and they forget all about your fantastic advice that you just so generously shared. So in coaching, we believe that the best solution comes from within. Like I had said in the beginning, everybody has knowledge, experience, creativity, strength, courage. Everyone's got it. So when you create your own solution, when you take that breath and look at the gaps that need to be bridged in your life so that you can really thrive as an individual, and then work with a coach to support you in bridging those gaps, it's going to come from you. And even we see this both in life in general and in the business context. it's called engagement, right? And co-creation. So a decision and a plan that you're involved in creating is going to be much more effective than one that's imposed upon you, whether it be from a kind and loving coach or whether it be from a command and control boss. You know, the answer has to come from within.
Very good. That's awesome. So as you've progressed in your career, we talked a little about earlier, you've really inspired me in the kind of ups and downs that you've gone through and where you are right now. We're going to talk a little bit very shortly about the work that you're doing in Saudi Arabia. But if you could just give people a little bit of the story of how you got there, just a short version, because as I mentioned to you before, that people sometimes think that it's just like a straight line, or, you know, I often see people the first time there's an obstacle, they, you know, they hit a wall and they go, oh, this is not for me. And they go back to the old one, the old way of doing things. And you really have inspired me and you know, really shown me that somebody who can just get back up and not give up and to see where you've come to is amazing. So can you just tell us a brief story of how your kind of history of getting to where you are right now?
Sure. So I've always been in love with the idea of working. I always wanted a career ever since I was a young person. I did quite well in university, and I hit the ground with my CV, ready to take over the world, and quickly got chewed up and spat out, and chewed up and spat out, and chewed up and spat out over and over and over again. And so a time came in my life where my husband had an opportunity to live abroad, to work abroad, and so we decided to go for it. So I had a baby at the time, and so we moved abroad. We moved to the UK, and I was going to be a stay-at-home mom for a few years. That didn't really work out. That lasted a few months, and before I knew it, I had a business up and running, and the business was providing marketing tactics to very small organizations like the solopreneurs. And in that business, 3 of my clients were coaches. Now, I had never heard of professional coaching before, but one of them really inspired me, and I signed up for the course, and you know, the rest is history. So while I started my course, I became pregnant with my second baby, and then we moved back to Canada. So I have 2 babies in tow, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to start my practice. But there wasn't such a huge demand for coaching at that time in 2006. I had been out of the workforce for about 5 years when we factor in my maternity leave and the moving time and getting resettled and such. So I had no connections. I had no network. I was brand new in this profession. And so I did it the old-fashioned way. I sat down with this thing that young people have never seen or heard of before, but this is Yellow Pages.
I love it.
I cold called. I literally went through the Yellow Pages, and I cold called my way to booking appointments and meeting clients, and slowly talking with people and making connections that way. So slowly my practice built, and then I got to a point where, you know, my practice would fill up, and I'd get really busy with my mandates, and then my pipeline would dry up, and then I go through several months with no work at all. So I decided the good thing to do at that point would be to take on some business partners, and I lined up with some really smart, lovely individuals, only to realize that, you know, the saying, you know, too many witches spoil the brew.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Too many Indians, too many chiefs, you know, whatever the saying is. Oh my gosh, that was a painful lesson. You know,
Yeah.
I had a mission. I knew what I wanted to do. But when you go into business for yourself and you have a mission, you want your mission. You don't want to be compromising and watering it down with other people's dreams. Oh my goodness, what a shock. So I was starting to find that managing the relationships of my business partners started to take on way too much of my energy. And then there was a tragedy in my life. A dear friend passed away suddenly, followed 4 months later by my own husband being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. We didn't, you know, his prognosis was good, but he still had a really dangerous road to travel ahead. And I was depleted. I couldn't go on trying to build a practice with business partners, as lovely as they are as people. I couldn't invest in building someone else's dream and watering my own down. I had to focus on my family. And those were really dark days, grieving for the loss of a dear friend, worrying about potentially losing my own husband, having, a sick husband, and trying to be supportive for him, trying to maintain a sense of positivity, because the kids were young. They were 7 and 9 years old. And when this all started, my husband and I agreed that, we were going to be the best parents we could be. And we chose hope, we chose faith, and we chose, to stay positive, to teach the children, these life lessons, so we decided to take it as an opportunity. So I sold out of my practice with my business partners and went back to private practice. And this is when I came to you, because you had started your business class. And like I was just saying to you before the guest joined us, I really didn't feel that I had it in me to rebuild my business, to walk away from everything that I had built, and start over. And I was sharing with the group, I said to Leanne, I confess, I only signed up for the course because I wanted to hang out with Leanne. There's a few other ladies, a few other friends in the group, and I thought, I'll go hang out, and that'll be fun to visit.
But I won't let you stop at that, right?
No, it was a lovely time to hang out, but you certainly put me to work and forced me to think and forced me to do my homework, and I did it. And day by day, mandate by mandate, my practice rebuilt. And I have to say that I couldn't be more grateful for the joyous experience I'm having with my practice. I joked with you a couple years ago, and I said it took me 12 years, but I was finally an overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. 12-year overnight success. Amazing.
Yeah, and it was certainly, battered and bruised and beaten to a pulp. Maria knows. I went to see Maria, and that's how I met Maria. I was pretty pooped when I went to Maria for some energy work. But and that's another thing too, is that I reached out a lot. I had a lot of help from yourself, from people like Maria. I don't know if Julie's on the phone, but Julie's writing class, really invest in myself, body, mind, and soul. So that was fantastic. And then, I was just thinking this morning when I was out on my run, as my company reached this pinnacle, and I was so pleased with myself. Don't I get into a terrible accident and end up on bed rest for 6 weeks? Right. Leg brace for 4 months. And
just as you were running a big conference in Montreal, right, at the same time. That was last year at this time, basically.
Yeah, and this morning I ran a 5K, so just keep getting back up, stumbling and tripping, and, and then ultimately, I can say, like, I have the best, most beautiful clients. My clients are, spiritual people, loving people, and, and I have some fantastic opportunities that I'm really enjoying right now. And, there's no sacrifice. My husband, he recovered. He's doing well. He's thriving. His career is thriving. My kids are great. Wonderful friendships.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned a few times about your clients, and this is also something for the people that are online now and later, is that didn't happen by accident. You really had the intention and clarity of who you wanted to attract. And I know from some of our stories, and from my own personal experience, the same, is you might have attracted some, but you had the boundaries, say, no, these are not the right clients, and you kept filtering. So can you just talk very briefly about that? Because I think everything you've done has been very strategic, and that's a lot of why you are where you are right now. And
this is also credit to you and your course and your ability to help people really go deep and get that super clear picture of who you are as a business person, how you show up in the business world, and how you attract the right people. I made a very, very clear intention that I was not going to play the game of a woman in a man's world. As you can see, I'm uber feminine. I don't hide that. This is who I am. You hit on my website and you'll see flowers, and you'll see right there on my list of credentials, I'm a Reiki master. You know, I have a naturopathic background as well. And not because I charge for those services, but those make up part of, they help guide my work, you know, spiritual work, spiritually, healthfully, mindfully. You know, and I talk very much about thriving, you know, and I talk very much about the wisdom of nature. I have new videos up. You can see me in nature, walking with a horse, you know, communing with the flowers. So the people who don't like this way of being just merely have to click off and go to another website.
You know? I love that.
And
I love that.
it makes room for the right people. And believe me, I have, you know, I'm turning work away now. I have plenty of the right people.
Yeah. And that's such an important message for us all, you know, is it because the ones that are not right take so much energy, time, take us away from our soul path. And I think that's a very strategic decision that you continually make, which is really, really important. So let's talk about your current mission, current work that you're doing. And if you could just give us a brief how you worked. Again, this is a very strategic with you. You worked with partners to you know, to build opportunities. And I think that's something that solo entrepreneurs don't think about very much. And I think you've really been very, very wise in how you've done this.
Oh, thanks. You know, my Saudi
If I could just, Corry, just say one thing. If anyone has questions along the way, I haven't seen anything in the chat, but please don't hesitate to throw anything up on the chat as we go.
So about last year or so, I decided that I was going to take an even bolder step in my business philosophy. And that was total sharing and total trust. So I've aligned with some very close colleagues, and it's not to go into business partnerships with them. It's to build collaborative alliances and to share with the intention that if somebody in my collaborative group gets a mandate from an introduction that I make, there's no talk about, you know, commission or referral fees or anything. It's just go enjoy, you know, and if along the way, if this mandate opens up and my expertise could be of use, please consider me. But if you don't, you don't. So it totally liberated me. It liberated me from so many of the old-fashioned shackles of business relationships.
I love that.
And one of the people that I am sharing with has a colleague who was looking for somebody with my credentials for the Saudi project, which is, you know, an ICF recognized coach who was, you know, prepared and qualified to teach a coach certification course. And so she thought of me and introduced me to an organization called CAST, the Canadian Alliance for Speakers and Trainers. And we spoke, and we, Gus Takali is the owner. He's a Saudi Canadian, so he has operations in Ottawa and Dubai. And we hit it off, and, you know, through months of negotiation and waiting and stop and start, the mandate came to life. And so in March, I made my first voyage to the Middle East.
What was the reason for it? What's the vision of the Prince for and why Canadian women? You mentioned that in particular.
Yeah, well, there's a massive transformation happening in Saudi Arabia called Vision 2030, and the Crown Prince Mohammad is in charge of shepherding through this transformation, which is going to, you know, his dream or his plan is for Saudi Arabia's economy to be 100 times bigger than Dubai's by 2030. He's building a whole new city called Nemo, and it's going to be like the city of the future. There's some phenomenal articles about it. He's investing $65 billion in an entertainment industry. In 2 weeks from now, women get their freedom back. They're going to start driver's ed.
Oh, wow. Great.
Drive and own cars. Part of 2030 is that 25% of all executive roles will go to women. really, really, really amazing stuff. And
Awesome.
I still, you'd think I would be used to the idea by now, but the fact that Canadian women are being invited over there to be hired to, conduct mandates to support in this. So my organization that I'm working for, they have theirs is Vision 2022, and they are, going along with the culture transformation of the nature of the nation to transform themselves, and they're building a coaching culture. And so I believe it's 23 people in my group. I have men and women. So from what I know, I don't know about Saudi Arabia at large, but the company that sent me CAST, I am their first woman to teach men.
Wow.
And to have men and women in the same room interacting with each other. Because normally men and women are in separate buildings. And, if there's a meeting where they're required to be in the same room together, there's a tent in the middle. So to have men and women actually sitting at the same table and practicing coaching competencies with each other. And, my groups are extremely dynamic and lots of activities and co-creation. So it's really, I can't tell you, I can't find the words to express what it feels like to be a part of this.
Well, we'll have to get Julie to help you with that, because I think it's really important as we move forward, because what you're saying is really that essence of living your greatest soul path and evolving with it. And so one question I have for you is, why Canadian women? Why did they want Canadian women?
I don't know. I don't know. And I met some American women on the plane, American doctors, a team of doctors who were going over to teach a medical procedure. So I know there are people from all over the West.
Okay, Western women and women in particular, they're trying, that will help to shift a little bit.
Yeah. So just. I think it's, to me, it's like it's an example of really meaning what they say. If they want to build this new nation and to have this new economy, they have to open up to the world. Mm-hmm. And so when my colleague went over, the colleague who introduced me to the mandate, she went over about 6 months the first time before I did to teach communication skills to women, professional communication skills. And she needed to bring a letter of permission from her husband.
So you didn't need that, Corry?
No, by the time I went, that was no longer required. They said, bring one anyway, just in case you get somebody with more traditional values, customs. So I had it, but it was really talking about an insult to your dignity.
Yeah, and what if you were like me, didn't have a husband? You may not get the job.
You need from your dad.
Or from my son?
And if you can't get one from your husband, if you don't have a husband, if you don't have a dad, you go to your son.
That's amazing.
Your child.
I don't think my son would give it to me. So that's hilarious. But tell me, you've worked obviously, throughout Canada, off and on, you've done different work in the United States and the UK. What was the biggest challenge for you working in a very different culture? And what were the opportunities? What were the surprises?
I can't say that there was a huge challenge. What I expected, I didn't have a huge challenge there. I did have some really big surprises. I was expecting to be disrespected by the men. Mm-hmm. I was really expecting that they would be insulted that a woman was hired to teach them. And I was expecting to have to really coax the women to participate and sort of coax them to engage. Well, wow, shame on me for being, so naive in the world. No, the men were beautiful, gentle, respectful, polite, questions, like great questions, like really, eager to learn. And the women as well, but I expected that, in so many ways from the women. And the women, they're no shrinking violets. These ladies are extremely strong, extremely well educated. And no problem interacting with the gentleman, and the gentleman had no problem whatsoever interacting with them. And it took me a while to put my finger on the third surprise that I couldn't quite find language for until this trip. But the Saudi people are and I work, this is a huge organization, a multinational organization. So I think it probably represents Saudi, and Riyadh is the capital city. So I think my organization is a good slice of what life is like there. There's an openness of spirit there. There's a generosity of sort of a heart-based consciousness that is extremely comfortable to be a part of. There wasn't a sense of, it's still kind of hard to explain, but there was just an openness, and there high consciousness, high spirituality, and just real generosity. There was, a missile attack the first time I was there, and I came to work the next day. I didn't know what had happened, because here, when we hear something like that, we would think it's the most terrifying thing in the world. But the missile was detonated in the air, and when I came in, they were also worried about me. Was I scared? Was I worried? Did I want to, call home and check in with my family? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, the missile attack. I'm like, the what? But it's like here we have drivers driving up on sidewalks and busy areas. Life goes on. People.
I think that's a really, like what you were saying, is such an important message of how, and that's like a part of bridging between cultures, how you found your personal experience interacting with these individuals and how kind and compassionate or conscious or whatever, words that you used to describe, because we, not knowing the other, and a culture that's so foreign to us, and somewhere we find things that's disturbing to us, to see that behind all that is that, beauty. And if we can see that, that's where there's an opportunity for us to bridge that gap, and I think that's amazing message.
Yeah, and I have 5 ladies in my group who are completely veiled. I can only see their eyes. And I guess that would have been my challenge. The first day or two, I was not sure how I could connect with these individuals when I couldn't see them. Mm-hmm. But the veils went away. Like the veils didn't physically come off, but the barrier evaporated as soon as human connections and bonds started to be made. I was thinking, how am I ever going to get to know these ladies' names when I can't see their faces? But I could see their souls. I could see their spirits. I could see the sparkle in their eyes, the crackle in their voices as, they were participating, their personalities, the hand gestures. So the veils became not, they're gone, they didn't become, they stopped being an obstacle for me very quickly, which is another big lesson for me.
Yeah.
How we judge things, things that are different, or, we have opinions about things, and it's simply an act of worship on their part. It's how they show their devotion to their faith. And it's nothing more, nothing less than this.
Really amazing. What do you think you've taken, as you've helped and served there, what have they given you to come back to your own work and soul path?
That's such a great question. I think it's one of the great blessings of doing work that you're called to do. It's very much, as much as it's work, it's still very spiritual work for me. So I think I learned so much more, and I took away so much more than I ever could have hoped for. For one thing, I have a lot more hope for the world than I had before. Watching the news, we see so many crazy things happen all the time. And so not just that, wow, isn't that fantastic that Saudi Arabia is transforming society, and it will take time, but it's to go there and actually meet the people, who are actually the people who are making these changes and who are living these changes, and to see that they are peaceful people. You know, they are peaceful, conscious leaders. They are loving and gentle. They're smart. They're smart and they're strong, highly educated, highly worldly. So it gives me a great deal of hope for the world to know that, you know, the Middle East that has so many stereotypes put on it for us here in the West, Arabs and, you know, the Islam and all of this, I learned to really even further dismiss stereotypes and what we hear about the news. I have hope for the world thanks to them.
That's really beautiful. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about this experience that you want to share?
I think what is really interesting is how similar they are and how similar their lives are to us, to our lives. You know, we have the extreme cold, they have the extreme heat. You know, we have, you know, the fields of snow and they have the desert. We have these terrible snowstorms that, you know, stop everything in its tracks. They have sandstorms. You know, there's just so much that we have in common that it's been fascinating to experience, to observe that.
Very nice. Awesome. Before I continue on, I wanted just to ask, does anybody here want to ask directly a question to Corry? I know Dorothy posted a question and I think Corry answered it very well. If you have any more questions about that, Dorothy. Anyone else want to mention something before I continue? Just put up your hand if you can't get unmuted.
Yeah, no, she answered my question. I'm fine, thanks.
Awesome.
What was your question, Dorothy?
Oh, it was just, I was wondering about how the women were working in a group with men, not having done so before, and also how the men reacted to working with women.
Yeah, you know, and I think because of the nature of the organization, it's a healthcare organization, they are more accustomed to working together.
Yeah.
And then some places that are only recently hiring women in the first place. So I think there's scales and degrees, you know, which is another surprise. You know, I thought there was no women in the workforce whatsoever, and they're all just starting. But there's layers. There's layers to it. But yeah, just as normal and natural as it is here.
Very good. Anyone else have a question? I see Linda putting up her hand. Okay, Linda.
Yeah. Hi, Corry. Wonderful. So nice to hear you. I have a question because I was wondering, does those women have children and how do they deal with family life? Is it similar to us here?
Yeah, they do have children. Sorry, will you finish your question, Linda?
Yes. Yeah, I'm done.
Yep, they have children. They are working moms. Very, very, very interesting. What I learned on the last trip. So what's very common there is they have a lot more hired help in the household. So they have more support taking care of the day-to-day chores. And also, it's the men who do the chores over there, the household chores.
I think I moved there.
What was explained to me, and I mean, my head was as I was hearing this. I hope I got the story right. But the woman's duty is to give birth, to take care of her children, and to take care of herself. With the theory that if a woman is, you know, haggard and running all day doing chores and chasing after kids and still having to go out and, you know, work if she has permission from her family, when her husband gets home and they get back together at the end of the evening, she won't be in a very good mood. So as part of a healthy marriage, the gentlemen take care of a lot, if not all, of the chores.
That's cool. Very different,
That
eh?
is something a lot of ladies here would like a lot more of.
Did you keep telling your husband that? I hope.
And, you know, and these ladies are they're exquisitely beautiful. You know, it's really something. You know, there's the ones who are not veiled, so you can see how beautiful they are. And there's the ladies who are veiled, and you see them when you go to the ladies' room or such, and they take everything off for a minute. You see they're beautiful. You know, so they can take such great care of themselves. So you know, it sort of makes some sense. I can catch that logic that, you know, if you spent the whole day doing laundry and vacuuming and dusting, you're not in a good mood when your husband gets home or when when you get home. And so it's good for the marriage not to do chores. Just take care of yourself.
There, very interesting. Anyone else have a question? Doris, yeah, I'm just going to unmute you, Doris. Thank you, Linda.
Hi, Corry. Nice to hear you. Welcome back home.
Thank you.
I find it really interesting about the labels we put on people about, you know, we've always heard that the Saudi women are always so downtrodden by the men and the men rule the roost. And you go along and you come back and you tell us these stories about how open they are and how consciously they're growing and how, in fact, the men do the housework. I mean, how many Westerners actually know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we think we're so evolved and we're so, how can I say, so liberal in the way that we live. And yet our men wouldn't dream of doing that for us. They'll come home and complain, well, what have you been doing all day, kind of thing.
Well, I have to say, you know, defense of my husband, sorry, Craig, this is a true story. My husband does a lot. My husband does a lot of, we share, you know, I do a lot of yard work and he does a lot of housework. We don't have those clearly divided chores at home. And, you know, there was I was observing one of the group coaching sessions. One of the activities was my coaches to practice group coaching. And I had this one group with the 4 gentlemen. And by the way, the Saudi gentlemen are, they have a traditional outfit that they must wear as well. So it's not just the women who have traditional coverings. The men do as well, which is a white tunic to below the knee, white trousers, and they wear a headpiece. It's like a red and white checkered headpiece that's held down by, looks like circular ropes. And they wear this, the only choice they have is a red and white headpiece or a plain white headpiece. So the gentlemen have their attire rules to follow as well. And so there's one of my sessions, there was 2 ladies and 4 gentlemen in this group coaching session. And the 2 ladies were really into like this really exciting brainstorming, and they just totally ruled the conversation. And I was watching, and every now and then one of the gentlemen would try to get a word in edgewise and then just give up. There's no way they were going to get a say in this conversation. And I thought, you know, again, you know, I would have thought that the ladies would be, you know, letting the gentlemen speak.
Exactly.
The gentlemen would have been commanding their place at the table, and they weren't agitated, these gentlemen either. They were very gentle, they were very elegant, very dignified, and they just listened to the conversation and, you know, let it take its course. And the women were just as powerful as any one of us would be at a table where we're passionate about the topic.
Very cool.
I think that's what's been so eye-opening about this whole conversation that you've been having. I mean, my husband does help me a lot, but there's a lot of husbands who don't. They still have that old-fashioned mentality that's your job and this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in fact, even me as a wife, I'm still stuck in that every now and again, because I'll say to Craig, well, thanks so much for unloading the dishwasher for me. No, but it's not for me. It's just thanks for unloading the dishwasher. End of story. You know, it's those conditioned responses that we have to be aware of and change.
Yeah, that's it. And I think what you've really done a great job of here, Corry, is help us to kind of see without blinders that, you know, we have, even as we try to be as evolved and educate ourselves and everything, and we still have a view of what the other is like,
And
you know.
the other thing about
the
the gentlemen are extremely loving and gentle family men. And I was watching on the airplane, you know, the families with the young children. It was the dads who were walking the babies up and down the aisle. You know, the ladies would crash out and fall asleep, and I was watching. They would sleep for hours. So it was a long journey. And the gentleman would take care of the babies, you know, and the baby would cry, and it was the dad who got up. And there was one scene on the plane. There was a small family, one baby, and the wife, and she's all black. You can't see a thing about her. She's all covered up, and she's all snuggled in with her husband, and he's, got his arm around her so she's comfy, and with his other hand, he's holding the hand of the baby. He's got his little hand flopped over the side of the bassinet in the bulkhead. And he just looked like the most serene, loving dad. And I thought, and then, he's not an anomaly. This is like what you see everywhere on the streets and everywhere around. And it's a lovely, that's why I say that I have great hope. There's a lot of love there, a lot of gentleness, a lot of peace.
Not as necessarily as the West media portrays, huh?
Exactly.
Interesting. So I'm just going to ask you one or two more questions. Is there any other last questions from you guys before we, Julie?
Corry, what have you learned from there in terms of applying to new leadership ideas here?
That's a really good question. So what are they doing there leadership-wise that we should do over here?
Or that is just something to consider?
From the organization that I saw, there's a much bigger investment in training and development that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Walking through the corridors, they have these sort of like these big screens set up with all the courses that are available. And it just seems like there's such a huge variety of opportunities for people to learn. There's education crazy over there. I asked at one point after one activity how many people had in the room had an MBA. Now, this is a healthcare organization, and half the hands in the room went up.
Wow.
So people are extremely, extremely well educated. And the organization's purpose for having me there is to build a coaching culture. And I think that that's something that, we can really take on board here is to, and it's an investment, to build a coaching culture that's recognized by the ICF standards of a coaching culture. It's a big project and it's a big investment, and, they're doing it.
Corry, sorry, did you have anything else, Julie, you want to mention? No? Thank you for asking that.
And Julie, yes, I did a lot of writing on the airplane. I couldn't face you again if I didn't come with a journal full of notes.
Yay!
Yeah, obviously the message is really important that you have to share with people. So Corry, what's next for you in terms of your work? What's kind of leading edge type of thing? Are you going back to Saudi? Are you doing any more work there? What else?
I have one more trip. I have week 3 of the coach certification program to deliver. So that'll be in July. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I have still quite a lot of mandates on the go here. I guess what's next for me is to really ground myself in coaching culture and helping with building coaching cultures one way or the other. Even, in smaller organizations where, it's not a huge culture transformation. There's the message of coaching culture and not just coaching activities is something I'm going to continue to really build upon.
Awesome. Now, if people want to follow your blog or, you're very active on social media, can you just, I'm going to put some of your links on here, but maybe if you can just share some of your website address and other ways to get you.
Yeah, thank you.
Instagram handle.
Yeah, www.corryrobertson.com.
Corry with a C.
Yes, Corry.
Yeah.
And one of my inspirations on the airplane, and I was thinking coming home that, the world needs to know these people that I met. They need to know my new colleagues, my new friends. And so it hit me to open up a guest blogging experience. So I've written to my group and asked them if they'd be interested in being guest bloggers to talk about how they are, bringing coaching to the world and how they're transforming their organization and their country using the coach approach. So hopefully soon you'll start meeting these colleagues of mine, and hearing their stories, you know, directly from them.
What a great idea. That's really wonderful.
It's going to be called, the blog is going to be called Legacy Bridge, because it's all about how the legacy that you're building to bridge the gaps that we have, you know, in society.
It's fantastic. It's really this 3-week mandate has the potential to blossom into something even much greater, you know, for you, for them, for us, for our communities and society. So congratulations on that work and the continued success you have in that.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hearing my story. For those of you who see me more often, I know you're probably getting tired of hearing my stories by now.
Not at all. It's amazing. It's really great to hear, and it's really fun to share it with people. And this recording I'm going to share as well. So any of you who were inspired today and want to share it, I'll be posting it probably by tomorrow. And you can share it with some of your friends and Facebook colleagues and Instagram and so forth. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Thank you from the Inspire Show. We have another one coming up next month, more on that. And then next week we have the Awakening Cafe, same time at noon on Wednesday. So that's an opportunity for coaching and networking with your colleagues who are really following their soul's path and helping to transform the world. Thank you so much. A special, special guest, Corry. I really appreciate your time here. And great. And everyone have a wonderful week. Namaste.
Namaste.